Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Vaughn, and this is Just Your Average Game Chat. Today, we will be talking about Call of Duty, and more or less the evolution of Call of Duty and how we are today, and kind of what it means for the new game coming out. Now, for those of you who don't know, Modern Warfare is right around the corner, and a lot of people are very excited, including myself. Now, I'm going to talk about what it means, like why Modern Warfare coming out is such a big deal in Call of Duty state today. Now, when Call of Duty first came out, it was exclusively on PC, and it reinvented the shooter genre. Now, Call of Duty was a very popular game, and it was coming out exclusively on PC, and then they started making games that weren't necessarily main headline games for console. Call of Duty 3 was actually the first Call of Duty that was a main game that came out exclusively to console, and they weren't able to get a PC port. And that was a very big deal. That's when Call of Duty really became a broad game. It came out to like a bigger audience, which was very good for the franchise. Now, when people think about Call of Duty, at least most gamers, especially the older ones, when they think about Call of Duty, they don't really think about, you know, everything that what 3 was and then before that. They think about Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare. That is the first game that really made the genre, like, pop, I guess you could say. Like, Call of Duty 3 was huge, it was a big deal, but when Call of Duty 4 came out, that was like a modern shooter, and it really pulled a lot of people in, and it just kind of revolutionized the multiplayer. It was like great, the campaign was amazing, and it introduced like characters as Captain Price, Soap, and it really just like made Call of Duty like the big thing. Like that was the game that made Call of Duty the big thing. And when people think about Call of Duty in its heyday, they revert back to COD 4 when that all started. That was kind of like the big thing. Like that's when multiplayer was the main focus of a Call of Duty game, was in Call of Duty 4. Then after Call of Duty 4, you had World at War, which kind of took everything Call of Duty 4 did, kind of expanded on a little bit. It was a different developer that headed up Call of Duty World at War, and it was a great game in of itself. It went back to the World War II roots. It was a lot more gruesome of a game, and it was like the story was just riveting, and the multiplayer was insanely fun. And there's actually also the introduction of the zombies mode, which was absolutely crazy. It was the first co-op mode. It wasn't even supposed to be a big thing, but it just kind of something the developers thought, hey, this would be cool to add towards the end of the story. Let's just go ahead and do it. And then it blossomed from that into this huge mode that some people buy Call of Duty just to play that mode. And then from World at War, we move on to Modern Warfare 2. Now, Modern Warfare 2 is today, like, to most people, their favorite Call of Duty game, and it's undoubtedly one of the best, if not the best. Now, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 took the story from Modern Warfare and elevated it in almost every single possible way they could. It was amazing. Not to mention the multiplayer. The multiplayer was by far one of the best Call of Duties I've ever seen. And it was so good. And they didn't have a zombies mode. That was more of a Treyarch thing at the time. But they did have a Spec Ops mode. And the Spec Ops mode is basically a survival like mode where you would play on multiplayer maps and just kind of go like wave after wave of these AI enemies. And it was a really fun mode. And that was pretty much the gist of Modern Warfare 2. And it was, like I said, such a great game. All the guns played well. It was extremely well balanced, kind of reverting to a system where if every gun's overpowered, no gun is overpowered, which fans absolutely loved about the game. That was probably like the most talked about aspect, that every gun was good. And then we move on to Black Ops 1. Now, Black Ops 1 was Treyarch's version of kind of keeping up with the modern-ish technology of what was the Modern Warfare series. Obviously, their first game or main game was like World at War, and that was a World War II game, but that's not in comparison to like a modern shooter. So what they did, they moved up to the let's say Cold War era, Vietnam War, and it was extremely well done. The campaign was amazing in Black Ops 1. And the multiplayer was also very well done. It introduced a I guess kind of like a credit system to where when you leveled up, you got certain credits, and then you would unlock certain guns and equipments and things of that nature. And then you would have to spend your credits on those things. So like you'd have to save up your credits to buy certain things, and it was a really interesting system. It was the first of its kind, and some people liked it, some people didn't. Personally, at the time, I didn't like it, but I grew to kind of like it. But that's not even the best part about Black Ops. Like the multiplayer, like I said, great. Campaign, amazing. But most people, when they think of Black Ops 1, they think about the amazing contributions to the zombies mode. Black Ops 1 Zombies was, a lot of people would think, the best Call of Duty has done since. Like, it was so good. You had so many things added, like a story. Like, it just, I can't even describe how amazing it was. It just, those of you who played it, you truly know how amazing the zombies mode in that game was. And so, and then, like, you know, when they added DLCs, it wasn't just to the multiplayer like it had been before. It was to the zombies mode. It contributed to that as well. And it was like new characters, different stories. It added to the story. It was like a campaign that wasn't linear. Like, it wasn't a linear campaign. It's just like you had to do things through Easter eggs, and it made this whole story, and it was incredible, and fans loved it, absolutely loved it. And so that's kind of the start. Well, I would say the true start of what zombies has become today. And yeah, it's incredible just to look back on it. And now after that, we move to Modern Warfare 3. Now, an interesting fact about Modern Warfare 3, it is the most sold Call of Duty game. Even like compared to numbers they're putting up today, it's still the number one sold Call of Duty game. And that's because not only do you have the, well, I guess it's just kind of like the build-up from the first two Modern Warfares. I mean, even though you haven't played Modern Warfare 1, Modern Warfare 2, you have fans of those two games who are buying Modern Warfare 3 because it's the predecessor, you know. And then you have people who just heard how great the Modern Warfare series was, and they're like buying this game as well. Now, Modern Warfare 3 wasn't near as popular, like as far as favorites go, as Modern Warfare 2 was. But Modern Warfare 3 was still a great game. The campaign was amazing. It was kind of like the nice ending point of the Modern Warfare campaigns, and it kind of tied it up in a nice way. Some people didn't like it, but for overall, most people really liked how the campaign ended. Multiplayer was, in my opinion, I really liked the multiplayer, but to some people it wasn't their favorite, although it was received pretty well. The Spec Ops mode was kind of like a lot of people weren't too, happy with it. They saw Black Ops 1 Zombies and they're like, well, y'all could have done something a lot better than y'all did, but I mean, this is what it is, and so I guess we'll take it. And so, obviously we did, and I mean, I don't know. It was a good game. Really, it was. But, I don't know. When people talk about their favorite games, Modern Warfare 3 isn't one that usually comes up in the mix. Like, it's mostly Modern Warfare 2, and as far as the Modern Warfare series goes, it's usually Modern Warfare 2 that is the main game. Now, Modern Warfare 3 was a great game in the sense that it was the game that had the most launch content of any Call of Duty. It had, I think, 35 primary guns starting off, which is incredible. No Call of Duty has even come close to that number. And the maps, they had so many maps. It was incredible. And honestly, if that says anything about what Call of Duty has become ever since then, is kind of, I don't know. The fact that came out in 2012, and since we still haven't been able to match that level of content at launch, it's kind of crazy. I really wish we could revert back to that. But yeah, and then the multiplayer, they did a lot of interesting things with modes and stuff like that. It was a pretty revolutionary game. It's just not something people look back and like, oh yeah, that was my favorite game. Or I don't even think some people realize some of the things that the multiplayer did that to revolutionize the series, but you know, it is what it is. Not everybody's going to see certain things. And then we move on to Black Ops 2. It is the second part in the Black Ops series. And now, when Black Ops 2 first was announced, people weren't really excited for it. It actually kind of got negative reviews, or not reviews, but like dislikes, I guess you could say. Like when the trailers were like announced and it went into the future, like into 2025, and people were kind of disappointed. They didn't want the Black Ops series to go into the future, or really any Call of Duty game to get futuristic. And yeah, it was kind of just like, I don't know if that's gonna be a popular thing. Like, we don't really want that sort of thing. How's it gonna work? Like, are we gonna see just different technologies and crazy stuff in the multiplayer that no one's gonna want? Like, what is this? And so the game came out with these negative kind of views, I guess you could say, on the game. But when people got their hands on the game, they were blown away by how incredible the multiplayer was, as well as the zombies. Well, starting off, the zombies was a little rough. It still did a lot, like, really cool things, and like it had step ups in ways, but like a lot of people kind of reverted back to liking Black Ops 1, at least at the start. Black Ops 1's zombies a little bit better. But the multiplayer, like I said, was so great. It was amazing. The campaign, it did do some revolutionary things as far as how it was set up, as well as kind of what you could do in the campaign as far as your character and stuff goes. It was kind of a new, interesting thing. But yeah, I personally like the campaign. It's not like a top, favorite campaign or whatever, but personally I do like it. But Black Ops 2, the multiplayer was so good. Like, honestly, when I think about my favorite Call of Duty, for me it's Black Ops 2. Now, a lot of people, it's kind of between Black Ops 1, or not Black Ops 1, sorry, Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops 2, but for me personally, it's Black Ops 2. I love that multiplayer so much. And yeah, that was also the introduction of Call of Duty Elite, I believe, which is kind of like what World League is today, and it's a really big, interesting thing. But yeah, and that was also Call of Duty Black Ops 2 was also the first introduction of a DLC gun, as well as I believe is the first game that introduced microtransactions as well. And when I say microtransactions, I mean paying for weapon skins, and then you have obviously the DLC gun, but that was part of a DLC pack. But yeah, that's when we first get paid. Had to pay for certain weapon skins, which is fine because you paid for the skin you wanted. It wasn't like some random generated thing. It was, you like this skin, all right, well, let me go pay like $2 for it, and you got that skin. And I love that system because I think personally that's how it should be. Then we get into Call of Duty Ghosts, and starting off, Call of Duty Ghosts kind of got like when the reveal trailer came out, it kind of didn't show anything. It was kind of like a live action trailer that just showed like multiple like masked warriors through time and stuff, and it was a really cool trailer. I liked it, but it didn't really give game details, so it kind of was getting trashed a little bit. But Call of Duty Ghosts came out. The campaign was pretty good. It was fantastic. Well, I'm not gonna say fantastic, but I liked it a lot. Most people liked it. I would say it had a good reputation as far as campaign goes. And the multiplayer, coming from Black Ops 2, the multiplayer wasn't really all that, or at least most people didn't see it that way. The time to kill was insanely fast, like way faster than Black Ops 2. And it almost felt like hardcore mode was like always on. And hardcore was just ridiculous because time to kill is already fast in core. You go to hardcore and it's like one tapping. But multiplayer wasn't really, the biggest part about Call of Duty Ghosts, and really is what why people don't like Call of Duty Ghosts for the most part is because they think about the multiplayer and they're like, oh, that was trash. I mean, they did some cool things, but we didn't really want those cool things in the game. They try to add dynamic map design, so like you could do specific things in the map to kind of change up the map in certain ways. And I think they really did that because Battlefield 4 had come out and they were doing that sort of thing, and so Call of Duty kind of wanted to do their own version of it, and it didn't really work out all too well. I mean, it was cool and all, but it was kind of gimmicky and no one really ever paid that much attention to it. So it wasn't like a big quality of the game like it was in Battlefield 4. But, I mean, I do want to commend them for trying that sort of thing. It just didn't work out, which kind of sucks. But, yeah. And then Call of Duty Ghosts also had the, notorious Infinity Ward Spec Ops mode, which is kind of the same thing as it always was. It's just a survival mode, basically, where you get hordes and hordes of enemies that are, kind of campaign-esque enemies coming at you, juggernauts, helicopters, stuff like that. And then Call of Duty Ghosts introduced Extinction, it was their version of zombies at the time. And it was aliens. And honestly, it was pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. Personally, I wasn't that good at it. And a lot of fans preferred zombies, but I really do think that Extinction was very cool, at least in concept. You kind of had classes, and you could upgrade classes as you go. You found weapons, and yeah, it was really cool actually. And it wasn't as well received, and you had kind of like boss fights and stuff, which was kind of Black Ops 2. And 1 actually was kind of in the realm of that somewhat a little bit. But in Extinction, you had like, these are actually extremely different from others. And like you had a boss fight where it was one big dude and you had to do specific tactics to take him out and stuff like that. And it was a really cool thing. But it wasn't really that well received in the majority of the community, I don't think, because it was a little difficult. More difficult so than zombies was, at least starting off. And yeah, but it was an interesting concept. It could have been more done well. It could have been better than it was, I guess you could say. But for what it was, I appreciated it. And I think they honestly could have just kept expanding that instead of doing what they did. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Now, here is one thing that Call of Duty Ghosts really did very well, and that was their DLC. Their DLC was honestly some of the best, in my opinion, because they not only introduced weapons, like different weapons, more than just the one weapon, into the game in a DLC pack, but they also like made like fun modes and like maps that were crazy. I mean, their maps are so cool. They had one map where you literally had Michael Myers as like a dynamic play-in, and it was incredible. They had Predator, which was so cool. It had never been done before, and it was just amazing to me. And then, not to mention, they also started doing like exclusive camos, like you could earn camos when you played in like the holidays or whatever, stuff like that. And then they also had microtransactions and the fact that they had content like weapon camos and things of that nature that you could buy and kind of have, you know what you're paying for, and you'd purchase it, and said and done, you have it now. And that was a really cool thing. They had really cool camos, and they also had like voiceover packs where they had Snoop Dogg could be the announcer, and it was really cool. And yeah, that is one thing that Call of Duty Ghosts, in my opinion, did very well, better than their predecessors, and even so, continuing on the line. I mean, we haven't really seen anything like that since it happened, and I kind of miss that sort of thing. Hopefully, we can see something like that in the future, but I don't know. We'll just have to see. And but yeah, I really would like to commend Infinity Ward and Call of Duty Ghosts for that sort of thing. They did really well. And then after Ghosts, we have a new developer come. A new dev team come to the stage, and that was Sledgehammer. Now, Sledgehammer has been in the series for a little bit. They just weren't a main developer. They were helping Infinity Ward kind of do their thing and build their game. But now they're a mainstream developer. This is when they come into the mainstream of things. And they come out with Advanced Warfare. Now, Advanced Warfare introduced exosuits and kind of a boosted movement system. And when people saw it, they were they were kind of, I don't know, like, it was well received in one way, and in other ways it wasn't. It was like, wow, this is a drastic change and everything. But to some people, that was a bad thing. To some people, it was a good thing, because there's a long stated saying that, Call of Duty is just the same thing over and over again. And Call of Duty was like, all right, well, we'll change that. Most people like Call of Duty for the fast-paced movement. Let's expand on that. Let's make it even more fast-paced. Let's jump. Let's get double jumps in the mix. Let's kind of get more futuristic in certain aspects of the game. And it really was like trying to evolve Call of Duty into something that, the fans haven't seen before. And, well, it was, in a way, it was revolutionary, I guess you could say, but it was kind of a change that fans, I don't know, like your hardcore fans, I don't think were really just in favor of it. But you had some casual gamers who were like, yeah, like I want to see Call of Duty make these changes because I'm tired of playing the same thing over and over again. And now when the game first released, it was a really good feel. Like, it felt great, and like people really liked the advanced movement system. And Sledgehammer even added a mode where this advanced movement system was removed from the game, and you could play a more traditional version of Call of Duty. Which, for the maps though, it was a little because the maps were so big, because the advanced movement system was so I guess, like that they designed the game with that advanced movement in mind, and the maps were kind of big and they were like insanely slow played on that mode. But I still like what Sledgehammer did to kind of cater to people who didn't like that system. And now you have their zombies mode. Sledgehammer came out with a zombies mode, and they had legitimate actors be characters in the game, and they tried to tell a story, and it was actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, like at least the story aspect, the gameplay was fun. I wouldn't say it was as good as Treyarch's interpretation of zombies, but it was a pretty good try. I commend them for trying, and yeah. Another big thing that Sledgehammer did was their campaign. Their campaign was really just amazing. Like, I loved their campaign. They had Kevin Spacey in it before he was a known pedophile. But yeah, it was a really good game. The campaign was great. Characters were really well. It looked amazing. It was really well done. And I'm really glad Sledgehammer was able to, become a main developer and get this out to the people, just because it was, overall, it was a fun game. Towards the end of its life, I really got sick of the advanced movement, and was actually going back and playing Call of Duty like, well, this wasn't even appreciated for its time. I was done playing Advanced Warfare. I went back to Call of Duty Ghosts, just because I wanted more of that, an actual streamlined, boots on ground gameplay on next gen console, and that was what I had, so that's what I played a little bit. Now let's talk about something that Call of Duty started doing in Advanced Warfare that fans absolutely did not like whatsoever. So Advanced Warfare had loot boxes. This is the first game to introduce loot box system, and my god, it was good but bad at the same time, if that makes sense. Like, you didn't have to necessarily just pay for your loot boxes. You could get them in game and you'd earn them. You do certain things in games, you level up, you get loot crates, you get advanced loot boxes and stuff like that. And then advanced loot boxes had higher chance of getting rarities, and then you had variations of guns, and so they get plus and minuses in their stats, and some were better than others, obviously, and some were frankly kind of overpowered in most people's eyes, and really in anyone's eyes. And you would have the same gun. So like I have a Bal 27. I have the stock Bal 27. Then someone pulls up with a legendary Bal 27 variant, and it just melts me. And there's nothing you can do over that. Oh well, I haven't played the game, or maybe I've been playing the game for a long time. I just haven't had the chance to get that certain variation, so I'm at a disadvantage. And fans really did not like that. But I mean, Advanced Warfare obviously wasn't just going to change their system, after the game had already released. So it was kind of just something we had to deal with. And then a thing that people really did not like was the fact that you had my bad, sorry. You had guns introduced to the game, and they were only unlockable by these loot boxes. And like, it was so unfair. You had people running around with like an M4 or just all these other guns, and like, you could not get them unless you just unlock them from a loot box, which was completely, random. Like, it was just, I can't believe Call of Duty just went to a system like that. And they're just, I don't know. I want to say at that point it was just an obvious cash grab, which it really was, but it wasn't like, I don't know. I was just honestly just disappointed in the whole game, and that's why I went back to Call of Duty Ghosts. I was just like, that game is awful. It is god awful, and I'm tired of Activision trying to take more money from me, and I'm tired of the advanced movement, and it was just, in my personal opinion, I know a lot of people like that game, especially till the end of its lifespan, but I got so sick of it. I really did. But yeah, and then after that, we have Black Ops 3. Black Ops 3, how can I say this? It was good in certain ways, and in others it wasn't. They added wall running into the game. You still had advanced movement, but it was pretty toned down compared to Advanced Warfare. They introduced wall running. It felt really good. It was kind of like Black Ops 2 gunplay with advanced movement, and I really did like that part of the game, because in Advanced Warfare it felt just too much. And then Black Ops 3 was like, alright, well, we'll dial it back a little bit, add wall running, and give the fans kind of more what they want. And at the time, I really appreciated it. And then they also added something that hadn't been done before, and they added specialists. Now, specialists were characters who had certain abilities. Well, they had, in Black Ops 3, it was each character had one ability that was a special thing, and one weapon that was a special thing, and they were kind of acting like supers off Destiny. I don't know if anybody has played Destiny, but yeah, you'd play the game, you'd get kills, and the more kills you got, or streaks you'd earn, or just points you'd get in general, would make your cooldown time go by a little faster, and then you get to use this weapon and or ability in the game that would give you a pretty good bonus in the game. And at the time, like I said, it was a really cool thing. A lot of people really liked it. And I don't think that sort of mechanic got, boring in Black Ops 3. At least not to me. I didn't get bored of it in Black Ops 3. And it was a really fun game. The maps were pretty well done. But then loot boxes were still in the game. And at first it was purely cosmetic. And Treyarch came out, Activision came out, and they're like, it's going to stay purely cosmetic. We're not going to add gun variations or any other guns into the game. It's going to be purely cosmetic, and fans, you guys are just going to love it. And then that ended up being a lie. They ended up adding DLC guns that you could only get through loot boxes, and it was terrible. It was even worse than Advanced Warfare, because the rarity was just so high. Like, hardly anybody got the DLC guns, and then if you were just at a disadvantage, and at least for some of them. And it wasn't fair to the players. Activision was again being kind of like a cash grab, and it wasn't good for the community at all. Like, it was tearing fans apart, because you have people who really love Call of Duty as a series, as a franchise. I mean, it is an amazing franchise, but it was awful. Like, the players wanted to play the game because at its core it's a Call of Duty game and it's a fun game, but Activision is literally ruining it with these loot boxes, and it was it was it was a sad time at the moment. But now let's talk about something a little bit better. Let's talk about Black Ops 3 Zombies. Black Ops 3's zombie mode was pretty well done. A lot of fans really liked it. It brought back the original characters. They went back to Black Ops 1 and kind of remade some of the two of the maps, and they played very well. They added a gobble gum system. You had your old perks back, and it was a really fun game. It really was. The Zombies mode of Black Ops 3 was great. And then they went and actually released a whole DLC pack for remastered Zombies modes. And it was honestly so much fun. Black Ops 3 Zombies is very well done. I commend Treyarch for all the improvements they made to the Black Ops Zombies series. And yeah, I feel like Black Ops 3 was really the peak of Zombies. Yeah, I would say it was the peak of Zombies. It was pretty fun. A lot of fans liked it. They had new maps with new characters as well as old maps with old characters. And yeah, and like the story got really interesting and kind of all built on top of it. On top of each other, and yeah, I really enjoyed it myself. And now the Black Ops 3 campaign, it was kind of hit or miss. Some people liked it, some people didn't. Me personally, I didn't like it. I didn't even finish it. It left a sour taste. It put a sour taste in my mouth, and I really wasn't a fan. And I'm sorry to all you guys who wanted my insight on the campaign. It wasn't it for me. I didn't want to play through it. My bad. But yeah, like I said, as for people who did play through the campaign, some people liked it, some people didn't. It wasn't a big campaign. Like, a lot of people didn't really enjoy it all that much, which is kind of disappointing because World at War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2 campaigns are pretty great, not gonna lie. World at War campaign, amazing. Black Ops 1 campaign, amazing. Black Ops 2 campaign, good, not as good as Black Ops 1 and World at War. And Black Ops 3 just kind of fell off. And as a fan of Call of Duty campaigns, it was very disappointing. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. The least popular Call of Duty in the franchise. No, but for real, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, I still can't pronounce the title without trying to say something else. But the Call of Duty Infinite Warfare trailer is still one of the most disliked videos on YouTube, which was crazy, and I did contribute to that myself. I'm not going to lie, but at this point, and I really do feel bad for Infinity Ward. I really do. I'm gonna touch on that as I go along, but this was a point in Call of Duty history where people were absolutely tired of the advanced movement system, and Infinite Warfare had that system still in place because, keep in mind, they're developing this as Advanced Warfare came out, and this is when the big Call of Duty shift from boots on the ground to advanced movement was made. And so you have Advanced Warfare, which is doing pretty well given the facts of especially the advanced movement system. People are liking it. Then you have Black Ops 3, which kind of slowed it down a little bit, and people are still liking it, there are fans in Advanced Warfare who are like, well, it's a little much, and Black Ops 3 was like, all right, we'll tone it down. And then towards the end of Black Ops 3's life, people were like, you know what, let's go boots on the ground, we're tired of this system, let's just get rid of it altogether. And Infinity Ward was kind of in a bad place. They've already been developing this game, and they couldn't just go back and redo the entire game based off fans' feedback. And it was really kind of sad for me to see because Infinity Ward does make great games. Even though it wasn't a popular game, Infinite Warfare still played very well. It played kind of like Modern Warfare series, but with its advanced movement. And the campaign was amazing. It was a really good campaign, and it was revolutionary in some sense. I mean, it was kind of like a free roam space ordeal. It just wasn't Call of Duty. It wasn't really what fans wanted from a Call of Duty. And as a fan of Call of Duty, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't excited for it at the time. And then you even had Infinity Ward go and remaster Modern Warfare just to, push people to buy their game. And then that was a big dilemma because you had Infinity Ward pushing the $80 version of the game, and you had to pay an additional $20 for a remastered version of Modern Warfare Remastered. It wasn't sold separately. That was the only way you could buy it. And fans were furious at Activision for doing this. And honestly, it was just sad for me to see. That was the first Call of Duty that I did not pre-order since Modern Warfare 3, which is crazy. And a lot of fans did it, and the reviews were kind of not good. The fans of the series were just disappointed, and they were left with a very sour taste in their mouths. And then also, to top it all off, Infinity Ward came out with their zombies mode, which in itself was a fun mode, not gonna lie. It was just a goofy zombies mode, but hardcore fans, they just weren't really pleased with it. It wasn't what they wanted from the Infinity Ward. It wasn't what they wanted from Activision. It just wasn't. One thing, however, that I will commend Infinite Warfare for doing, and now this might be, in retrospect, it might be because the game wasn't doing so well to start off with, but every gun they added to the game was available to you without having to go through a loot box system if you did buy the season pass. And I really, really wish every Call of Duty since then would have done something like this. But that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the next game in the Call of Duty franchise. And that is Sledgehammer's World War II. And now people absolutely loved the fact that Call of Duty was going back to a boots on the ground style. Now, this being said, it was kind of a good time for Call of Duty to go to World War II because Battlefield 1 had come out a year before, and it was also just kind of the mainstream Battlefield game, and that's obviously a direct competitor with Call of Duty. And so you had Battlefield 1, which is a World War I shooter, and it was a little rough, not gonna lie. And so Call of Duty comes out with a World War II shooter, and it is amazing to me. At least for me, I loved World War II. The campaign was amazing. It was literally incredible. I loved the campaign so much. It just got, I don't know, it kind of went into territory no Call of Duty campaign had gone into before because it had issues like the Holocaust in there. Overall, it was just a really good campaign, and it was very fun to play. There were a lot of moments where it was tugging at your heartstrings a little bit, and it just kind of immersed you into the world that was World War II. And now let's talk about the multiplayer. The multiplayer played so well. It was, the time to kill was a decent speed, the guns played really well, and it was just insanely fun. They had a new mode. They had the operations mode, which is kind of like, I mentioned Battlefield 1 before. Battlefield 1 also had a mode similar to this. World War II took that mode, kind of made it their own, and in my opinion, I liked it better than Battlefield's iteration of it. But that being said, the multiplayer just felt so good, and I still have memories from World War II that were just unique to that game, and it's just it was a great game. I feel like now it's a little underappreciated, but at the time it was really just a fun game, and fans gravitated towards it because it went back to boots on the ground. Now I want to touch on Sledgehammer's zombie mode in World War II. It was it was incredible. They really made zombies their own. They made it more horror based, and it was seriously scary. And there were a lot of times where like I would jump out of my seat a little bit because the zombies would just leap towards you, just jump out of nowhere, and it was so much fun to play. It was really fun. It was kind of gruesome, and it was just I loved it so much. It was a really good job by Sledgehammer. And then the DLC by the game was very well received. Loot boxes were still a thing, but they were, for the most part, mainly cosmetic. They did introduce DLC weapons that were made to kind of be unlocked by loot boxes, which was a little bit annoying, but you could also earn those guns by kind of collecting crafting points and kind of crafting yourself, which was a really good system, and I really enjoyed it. It made it to where you didn't have to exclusively get weapons or cosmetic variants of weapons by unlocking them in loot boxes. You could actually craft them yourself. A really good job on Sledgehammer's part for including that into the game. Most fans really enjoyed that about it, and it was just very good for them to do. It was kind of, I don't know, it was a step in the right direction for a main installment of Call of Duty. Moving on, we have Black Ops 4, which is the latest Call of Duty that has been released. It was interesting because Call of Duty 4 moved away from the campaign aspect of Call of Duty and focused more on the multiplayer, zombies, and their new mode, which is Battle Royale. And fans really did enjoy Blackout, the Battle Royale mode, and they were kind of, moving into the whole era of Battle Royale, which I guess we're still in that a little bit, but that was when it was really a big thing. And yeah, Blackout was a huge hit. It's not as popular as some of the other Battle Royale games out there, but it was still very good. Now let's talk about the multiplayer. Black Ops 4 takes place before Black Ops 3 and after Black Ops 2, and you still have the specialists in the game. Now, at first, this was kind of a good thing because a lot of fans did like the specialists in the game of Black Ops 3, and they weren't burnt out on it yet. But towards the end of Black Ops 4 lifespan, people were kind of just done with specialists, and they want it to be like, old Call of Duty and just have gunplay be a factor of the game, and they want to be killed specifically by another person's gun skill rather than just someone getting lucky with a ground pound or something like that. And I am the same way. I feel this way myself, and I know a lot of my friends and just people in the community overall feel this way as well. And now I want to talk about the zombies mode in Black Ops 4. I do think the Black Ops 4 zombies mode is as good, and I feel like it's executed well. It's just not as good as it was in Black Ops 3. I mean, you have the perks are completely different. They wanted people to shy away from always getting the same perks over and over again and kind of falling into the same thing. They wanted to change it up, but I don't get me wrong, I appreciate when developers try to change up the game to make it play better than it was being played before. But at the same time, it's not what the community as a whole wanted. They wanted that classic zombies feel. I mean, I have this Juggernog refrigerator right here for getting the collector's edition of Black Ops 3, and I love the Juggernog, and I love the classic perks. That's a main drawing point for Treyarch Call of Duty. And then so when you buy a Treyarch Call of Duty, you expect those specific things that, you were always a fan of in the previous installments. And it kind of, I don't know, I didn't like it. I really didn't. Now, I really liked how it played. I liked the introduction of the new things. It kind of took what I think Sledgehammer did and kind of expanded on it a little bit in their own way. And I really liked it. I really did. But it just wasn't Treyarch Call of Duty to me, or Treyarch Zombies to me. It just didn't feel the same, and I really wish it did, but it didn't, and that was kind of disappointing to me. Now I want to get into loot crates. And now, loot crates in Black Ops 4 were obviously still a thing, and you could still get guns that they released through the loot crates, as well as different skins, and they added emotes, just things like that. Then they added gun charms as kind of a filler for the crates or whatever. But one thing that Black Ops 4 did that, it's not like a revolutionary thing that like Call of Duty did, but it is something that was very well placed into Call of Duty, is the Battle Pass system. So for those of you who aren't familiar with what a Battle Pass is, it's like something traditionally you would pay for and kind of earn different things as you moved up in tiers. But in Black Ops 4, it was completely free, and I really liked it. It was very well placed, and if you wanted to, you could purchase the tiers so you wouldn't have to grind the game to get them. But this made it to where anything they added to the game, like any weapons, they were included in there. Certain variants of guns and granted variants of guns are cosmetic only, but still, you could earn these things just by playing the game and grinding the game out. And I really liked it. I think it was a really good system for Black Ops 4. And moving on, either if they don't do it like World War II did, or if what Infinite Warfare did, then they should do it like Black Ops 4 did. I think it was a really good system, and I really appreciate it. And now that kind of concludes the Call of Duty history and where we are today, and why Modern Warfare is going to mean so much for the Call of Duty franchise as well as the community. Now, before Modern Warfare was announced, people were speculating that Infinity Ward was actually working on Modern Warfare 4. And so it was going to kind of take place after Modern Warfare 3, where it left off. But to many fans' surprise, it's actually taking the characters from the Modern Warfare series and restarting the series as a whole, focusing on modern terrorism, which personally I think is amazing. I mean, you're going to have characters like Soap, and you're going to have Captain Price, the most popular character of the Modern Warfare franchise. And there's a chance we might see people like Ghost Riley and all these other characters from the franchise, which is really, really exciting. And the campaign is supposedly it's actually like a controversy at this point. Well, I don't know as far as like this point, but especially when it was first announced, it was a really big controversy because the campaign is supposedly the most violent Call of Duty campaign to date. And a lot of people are kind of skeptical on this, but if you really think about it, for it to focus on modern terrorism and the tragedy that it really is, it's going to have to kind of be extremely violent. And personally, I'm excited for it. As someone who's not very turned off by violence, I guess you would say. I'm not necessarily an advocate for it by any means, but in a video game, it's not something that's just like, oh my gosh, it's a violent, situation, I'm not going to play it. No, I mean, it's a rated mature game. It's going to have violence. It's just something to expect. And honestly, I'm really looking forward to the Modern Warfare campaign. It looks great, and I think the community, as far as the players, are very excited for it, and I am extremely excited to play the game. And now let's move on to multiplayer. Now, those of you who weren't able to play the beta, which I assume most people were able to because it was an open beta for a while, and it was actually a crossplay beta, but we'll get into that in a moment. The gameplay of the beta, it felt so good. It felt like how Modern Warfare as a series feels, but magnified, and it's a really good experience, and it just feels so incredibly good. And I'm so excited to get my hands on the full game because the multiplayer is going to be insane. Now I want to talk about a specific mode within Modern Warfare, and that is Ground War. And those of you who don't know what Ground War is, traditionally it was a game with a mix of modes that was, I think it was 9v9, which is for Call of Duty a pretty big thing. But now, since we're running on this new engine, which is 5 times better than it previously was, it's 32v32. And this is incredible for a Call of Duty game, but for more reasons than one, especially one that a lot of people aren't really drawn to at the moment, but I kind of want to hit on a little bit. Now, those of you who don't know, Battlefield's main mode is Conquest. And so Conquest is basically like a big, large-scale domination with vehicles, and it's 32v32. Ground War and Call of Duty Modern Warfare is the same thing. It's domination-like, and you have vehicles, except you have, Call of Duty gameplay, and you have kill streaks and all that sort of thing. But it's basically the same thing, just a Call of Duty version of it. And I think for Call of Duty, this is a huge deal. Because Battlefield community they didn't want a World War II Battlefield. They wanted a modern Battlefield. And when, EA announced that, Battlefield 5 was going to be World War II after they had a World War I shooter, the community as a whole was kind of disappointed. I mean, to be fair, Battlefield 5, as far as gameplay goes, is so much better than Battlefield 1, it's ridiculous. But it's just not something like Battlefield 4. It's not on that scale. It's not as good because you have less customization and things of that nature. And Battlefield community is just kind of like, it's not that big at this point because the DICE is just kind of failing the game at the moment. And Call of Duty sees that, and Call of Duty is taking the opportunity to pull people away from Battlefield into Call of Duty like they've never been able to before. And it's a big step for Call of Duty. And then not only do you have that big step in, this one game mode, bringing people from like other games to this franchise, but you have gun customization like it's never been done before. I mean, you have attachments that literally can go on any part of the gun. You can even equip perks on the gun, up to 5 attachments, and each attachment gives you plus and minuses in different areas to where you can actually truly customize your gun to your playstyle. And it's like the first time it has been done to this degree, I think, really any game. And I'm a person who plays a lot of first-person shooters and even a lot of mil sims, and I haven't quite seen a degree of customization in a game like this before. It's literally insane, and for it to be happening in a Call of Duty, it's huge. And so now it's to the point where instead of, your character being like a huge thing for, like this guy, look at his identity, like, I mean, that's, kind of how he is, I guess. I don't know, that was kind of a lame way, or a kind of stupid way of explaining that. But now you can like show off your personality and how you play the game, just your gameplay in general, through your gun. And it's incredible. And then not only that, you just have the little things that Call of Duty has done to kind of make their game perfect, in my opinion. I mean, you can now change classes within the game, whereas before you had to wait till you get back into the menu, then change a class. And so let's say you get lasered by somebody. You just get completely demolished. And you're like, I want to see what they're running. And before, it'd show you what they're running, but it just showed their gun and the perks they ran. But now it shows you literally everything. And if you want to, you can copy their class and then go back to create a class and paste it into your own, so you can run exactly what they're running and see if it's the right fit for you, which very well might be. And honestly, guys, this Call of Duty game is just going to be so revolutionary in every way possible, and I'm so excited for it. And I'm going to continue explaining in like other ways it's going to be revolutionary, but as far as multiplayer, it's going to be top notch. Like, it's going to be so good. Now let's talk about Spec Ops. Now, Spec Ops is kind of like, it's kind of its own thing this go around, and I really think Infinity Ward is moving in the perfect direction for this mode. So basically, you have like objectives now. It's not just some, like, we're here, we're going to survive multiple waves of enemies. It's like you're going through, and the enemies get harder and harder as you go through, but it's like kind of an extended campaign in a way. Like, you have like actual objectives and like things you happen that tie into the story of the actual game. and I think it's truly going to be an amazing experience. The trailer looked amazing. It showed it off very well. But I do want to talk about one thing that is very disappointing, and that is the survival mode, which is exactly like the Spec Ops we've seen previously. Now, Infinity Ward has come out and said that the survival mode is only going to make up about 1% of the game's content. But regardless of that fact, it is being held exclusive to PlayStation for a year. An entire year. That's the lifespan of this Call of Duty. And I mean, I have a PlayStation 4, I have an Xbox One, I have a PC, I have every console, or platform, I guess you would say, this is going to be available on, and I'm going to be purchasing it on PlayStation, but the exclusivity of the survival mode is just disappointing to a lot of players, and has caused a lot of people to, cancel pre-orders, and it's sad to see, because this game has the chance to be so perfect, and I mean, the Spec Ops mode, that being not being exclusive has in itself has made it to where a lot of people went and got their pre-orders back, or went back to pre-ordering the game, which is good to see. But the survival mode is still going to be held exclusive, and I hate that. I've always not liked that about Call of Duty. The fact that DLC drops a month later for the console or platforms that don't have the exclusive month before or whatever. Like now it's PlayStation, it used to be Xbox. I've always hated that, and I've always had the console at the time that had that got the DLC first, but I still didn't like that for the rest of the community. And now we have a game or a Call of Duty game that's featuring crossplay, and it's fully crossplay, and it works perfectly. It's so good, and I feel like Activision is just messing themselves up right here by holding that one mode exclusive. I mean, I understand it's not a big mode, but to some people that's a thing they really enjoy doing. And I mean, me personally, granted we have a lot more content than previously had, but I know, for example, Modern Warfare 3, I would play the Spec Ops mode when my friends weren't online just for fun. I mean, I really enjoyed it. And now, for some people on Xbox and PC, they're not going to have that luxury. I mean, sure, they'll have the actual Spec Ops mode and the campaign, things like that, but they're not going to have the survival mode, which it's simple, but I don't know. If they're going to hold it exclusive, I think it should be less than a year, far less, maybe a month. Then it'd be okay, but a year is just ridiculous in my opinion. But that is my opinion, but I mean, obviously, a lot of people in my community are going to share that same opinion. I just really hate to see that happen, because this is just such a, in every way, just about Infinity Ward, Activision has taken such a huge step up, and they're holding themselves back on this one issue, and I really hate to see it, and yeah, I don't know. Another thing that fans are kind of disappointed about is that there are going to be loot boxes, which, I mean, at this point we should expect them, because it's been in every Call of Duty since Advanced Warfare. Hopefully they're going to have some sort of system like maybe Black Ops 4 or World War II, Modern Warfare Remastered, something like that, or, Infinite Warfare. Hopefully, I mean, there isn't going to be a season pass this year, which is good. All the DLC is going to be free, so hopefully that doesn't come back to bite us in the ass later down the road. By them trying to since the DLC is free, this sort of thing is not going to be free. Hopefully that sort of thing doesn't happen. I'm kind of scared it is, but maybe it won't. Hopefully it won't. I just really don't want there to be I just want it to be accessible to get new guns and content that isn't exclusive to loot boxes. I don't want it to have just a chance to get them. I want a confirmed thing. Okay, I pay this amount of money, I want that specific thing. I want it to be like that if it's anything at all, or being able to craft it like in World War II, or maybe a battle system, a battle pass system, something like that. That's fine, honestly. I really wish we wouldn't have to go to those links to get content that's coming out into the game that we were already paying for, but if we do have to do that, I'd rather it be something as easy as that and not complicated, or not necessarily complicated, but not as unfair system as Advanced Warfare's loot boxes. I really would hate to see that happen to this amazing, amazing game. Now, this game is obviously a big deal, and I've expressed in different ways how it's a big deal, but now I'm kind of going to hit home on that by saying this is what the community as a whole wants. This is the game the community needs. This is really like going to bring back the series in a way that it just hasn't been in a little while. And Call of Duty as a franchise has always been number one. I mean, it still is number one in sales and everything like that. That hasn't changed. But this is just like the game that's going to bring more fans back to the roots of Call of Duty. Like, this is just revolutionary in a way that, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of like Call of Duty got like lost touch with its community, and it's finally going to bring it back. Hopefully it brings it back in a way like it used to be, and I'm really excited. And this game is also going to pull people that don't normally even play Call of Duty and bring them into Call of Duty, I think. Like, this is going to be such a huge deal, and I am just really looking forward to it. And yeah, those are my impressions, or this is what I'm excited about the game so far. Obviously, I haven't played the full game yet. It hasn't come out. It does come out next week on, next Thursday, or I guess Friday, technically, the 25th. Currently, it is the 13th. But yeah, I am just so excited for this game, guys, and I know all you are too. But yeah, I'm going to give my, my thoughts on it when I get my hands on the full game. But for right now, I just want to talk about the history of Call of Duty and like what was leading into and why this game is going to be such a big deal. Not only for the franchise itself, but just the community and yeah, everyone affiliated with this game. It's just a huge deal, and I'm so excited for it. Alright guys, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. I would like to thank all of you for listening, and I would like to apologize again because I'm still sick. Like I said before in my intro, I don't usually sound like this, but it's just kind of something I'm going through right now, and I'm sorry. I'm still new to this, so granted, I will be getting better as time goes. So I would like to thank all of you for understanding that. Also, if you didn't watch listen to my intro, I do have a Patreon. It is Just Your Average Game Chat. Go check that out. If you'd like to contribute to that, I would really appreciate it. It's gonna put all the contributions are gonna go towards this podcast to make it better. That way, I can get guests on the show, interview some people, things of that nature, and even film the episodes if you guys are interested in that. But yeah, I encourage you guys to contribute. Thank you so much for listening, and that's going to wrap it up. All right, see you guys in the next one.